This is the week of April 13th, 2026. This is Sur. This is where Segantini, the painter, came up to do his big landscape paintings. And he lived up here, I think, for 8 years. This is the Lemma Journal Club.
Featured papers for this week. Pseudomonas aeruginosa deploys competitor-specific antagonistic strategies. Ned is on this paper. Do you know how to pronounce that title, since you might have seen a talk about this?
I have not been listening closely enough to the second word.
Okay.
Then we have the guidance of cellular pneumatic elastomers into shape-programmable living surfaces, which is a very cool paper. I would recommend checking out the movies for that one.
Yep.
First author is Pau Guillemot, and yeah, I don't.
Last author is Xavier Trepat, whose papers I really like. Next paper is 5' UTR length shapes alternative N-terminal protein isoforms across cancers and in rare disease. This is another Ian Cheeseman paper. There were 2 papers of his last week. I find it interesting how groups cluster their publications, I think, accidentally. There's just these waves.
Just a rhythm.
Yeah.
Then we've got protein templated synthesis of dinucleotide repeat DNA by an anti-phage reverse transcriptase.
We know nobody on this paper. I would argue it's not a biophysics paper, but I love this paper. You know, this is really like Central Dogma Be Damned paper. And our last featured paper of the week is efficient genome editing with chimeric oligonucleotide directed editing. Becky Burdine is on this. Do we call her Rebecca Burdine, or do we call her Rebecca? Or Becky or Rebecca? Anyways.
Along with Britt Adamson, Jared Tocher, Cameron Mervold, a bunch of Princeton people.
Yeah. And now for some papers, not all of which, or most of which we have not read, some of which I have opened.
We've got capturing transient states of heterodynamic ABC transporter TM287/288 by time-resolved small-angle X-ray scattering.
Yep. Did you know why you were reading it until then?
Nope.
Our next paper is real-time snapping dynamics and nanoscale thickness profiling of salmon keratocyte tunneling nanotubes using partially coherent quantitative phase microscopy, coming back to the tunneling nanotube topic.
Are we just a tunneling nanotubes podcast?
We would have to do a second one.
The Hamiltonian model for energy condensation in classical systems, relevance to proteins.
Yeah, this is just seeing these non-equilibrium energy redistribution papers popping up. I'm starting to tag them for future discussions. The next paper is dynamics of wound closure in living pneumatic epithelia.
Discreteness-induced spatial chaos versus fluctuation-induced spatial order in stochastic Turing pattern formation.
Pretty cool paper. I opened it up for a second just to see if it was real. The next paper is external mechanical forces drives axonal cytoskeletal rearrangements.
Phase separation induced by active polymerization makes protocells robust against environmental changes.
And the next one is identifying statistical indicators of temporal asymmetry using a data-driven approach. This is, again, thinking about this idea of thinking about forward versus backwards entropy production.
Local Rho A activation induces aniline-independent septin recruitment in interphase cells.
I forget why I selected this one, and I can't quite remember from looking at the title. But I know why I selected the next one. Directed swimming of Chlamydomonas reinhardti near complex microstructures. Because it's a clammy paper.
Yep. Temperature of an active pneumatic.
Hey, that's on topic for our episodes. More is less in unpercolated active solids.
Okay, more
Also
active solids, yeah.
On topic of what we've been talking about recently.
Phase separation in a mixture of proliferating and motile active matter.
Not really what we're talking about in our podcast these days, but I do think it's on topic of what the general community is talking about these days. And finally, the last some papers of the week is variations on the 3-sphere, Lave's Labyrinth Lopped, which is last author Randy Kamian, first author Lauren New. It was a pretty slow week in papers this week. You can see all the papers on the Lemma Journal Club website that's linked in the doobly-doo for April 13th, 2026.
Bye.
And I am in Alp Fleeks. This is at one of the Alps in Switzerland. I'm following in the footsteps of Segantini, who is a painter that I just learned about and became really fascinated in his techniques of getting crystal clear air. He studied in Italy. He was Italian, and all of his compositions remind me of compositions of the great masters. And he used modernistic techniques like Seurat, where he's breaking up the color into streaks, so he doesn't mix his colors, they're just all next to each other. Anyway, this is just an incredible landscape. I'm on top of a rock, so I'm a little bit shaky. I'm worried I'm gonna fall. So this is a little town where he lived, and he lived up in this area for 8 years and painted some great masterpieces, which there's going to be a huge retrospective of his in France, in Paris, and if anybody wants, they can go see that.